So discovery research really comes from trying to understand the basics, not having a particular question in terms of disease or disorder in mind, but just trying to understand how a bit of the brain works. And really a lot of discoveries come from that, and findings which are translated into treatments or into ways to interact with the brain often come from unexpected sources. And that's not just true in biology, it's true in physics and chemistry as well. So discovery science really underpins all advances in science by and large. Occasionally things happen serendipitously in which someone discovers something attached to a disease by accident, but really most discoveries actually have a basis in basic discovery to begin with. So we work on the part of the brain called the amygdala, which is involved in processing emotions and things like why you like certain things, why you feel happy, why you feel sad, why you're afraid of certain things. And what that involves is thinking about how do sets of cells in your brain work together to produce those feelings and outcomes. So we do experiments in animals, in mice and in rats, where we have behavioral paradigms. This is we get them to do particular behaviors in which the animals are learning to become afraid of something or be attracted to a food or to avoid a mate. And then we manipulate their brain using very cutting-edge techniques, using stimulation in the brain, putting electrodes in the brain. We do recordings and we stimulate bits of the brain. We can turn cells on and off using techniques of molecular biology and using viruses to deliver these things into the brain. And we do straightforward behavioral experiments. So that's on animals. We also do experiments on people where we do fMRI scanning, put them in scanners. We also put electrodes into some people's brains to treat them for various disorders, where we can record things and ask them questions. So we're trying to understand how neural activity underpins some of the behaviors they're doing and what happens when you change that activity. So in our lab, we found, one thing we've recently found is how the brain is involved in consolidating memories, and brains undergo a particular kind of activity during memory consolidation. And we've just discovered, really again by accident, how the circuits that underpin this are operating, which cells are involved, and how you start them going in this process. So that's one thing. Also, we found connections of the amygdala with the different parts of the brain called the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex, which are involved, again, in fear memories and thinking about relapse. If you treat somebody who has a phobia, you treat them with exposure therapy, but a lot of people relapse. So one of the things we've discovered is which cells in the brain are involved in this relapse. Well, a couple of different things. One thing is we really want to understand, how emotions are generated, how we process them, and how they're affected in things like anxiety states. And the idea really is once you understand the basic circuitry, you can design ways to treat anxiety disorders. Things like post-traumatic stress and basic anxiety. All the treatments currently depend on simply people trying things. And as the upshot of that is that we do have some treatments which work. The downside is that a lot of the treatments have a variety of side effects. What we're looking to do is to find ways to treat these things which are targeted, well designed, and don't have side effects, which will make them much more usable. The second thing we're really interested in is thinking about how you can tell what the brain is doing and use these to design the next generation of computers and machines that interact with the brain. So I think we will have treatments in the next 5 to 10 years for movement disorders, things like Parkinson's disease and essential tremor, which will be better and more easily usable, and even perhaps being tried before the disease becomes very severe, which is what happens right now. The other side that will no doubt come is better instrumentation for controlling these diseases. These are, it may be small pacemaker type devices which are worn in your pocket, or you only use them once a day, or things that you might use only when you're asleep. these are new generation devices which will, I think, will come from, these are a bit further down the road, maybe 15, 20 years down the road.